Hello and welcome to another episode of Mythlok with your host Nitin Nair. Now, Mythlok is a compilation of almost all the different mythologies around the world which you may or may not have heard of before. Now, we not only try to focus on the popular mythologies that many of us are aware of, but we also try to dig deep into those exclusive or those hidden gems out there that many of us may not have the information for. One such mythology which I personally love and am extremely interested by is African mythology. Now, I know Africa is not a single country, it is a continent with multiple countries within it, and each of these countries have their own individual cultures and individual beliefs. But the only reason why we have clubbed all of this under the African mythology broad category is because we really believe that there are a lot of cultural similarities despite being extremely different in terms of language, in terms of the people, and in terms of their traditions. But the underlying theme for most of these mythologies are the same, so we haven't actually split it out right now. And the influence of African mythology is not restricted to purely the African continent. Well, during the unfortunate time in human history when slavery was a very normal part of our culture, which almost all of us are ashamed of right now, there has been a huge movement of the African people to both the Caribbean and other parts of the world. And these people carry their traditions, their mythologies, their story, their culture, and their beliefs with them across the oceans. And that's why if you look at the people in the Caribbean right now, their history and their mythology has very strong ties to Africa. So when we delve in God of knowledge, and some people also consider him to be a god of mischief, much like Loki from Norse mythology. He's also known to play a trickster, which is a role originated from West Africa. The character is a trickster who is known for his ability to play tricks to defeat powerful opponents through his creativity and smarts. Now, despite taking the role of a trickster, he is often regarded as a protagonist due to his actions. Spider tales are commonly found in West Africa, but the Anansi tales originated from Ghana. They later spread to other countries including the Netherlands and the West Indies. When we look at Anansi as a character and discuss his physical traits, Anansi is often portrayed in various ways with various names and iterations such as Anansi or Anansi. While portrayed as an animal, he has many representations, including being anthropomorphized as a spider with a human face, or conversely as a human with spider-like features such as 8 legs. When we look at the family history or the familial ties that Anansi has been associated with, he has a family in many of the folk tales that are there around Africa. His wife Okonoreya is known in other regions as Aso, Kruki or Shimaria, while he has kids as well who are popular in different folk tales around Africa. Now, some of his kids are Tikuma, then there is Tikelenkelen, who has a big head, Nakonvia, who has known to be having spindly legs, Afudovedove with the pot belly, and he also has a daughter named Ananseva in some of the stories. Now, like I mentioned, the influence of Anansi has spread across the huge African continent as well as different parts of the world, including the West Indies, the US, the Netherlands, etc. So, Anansi is notorious for having several names associated with him. Now, this is in particularly of interest because he's known as the trickster god, so it becomes quite obvious that these names are not only a characterization or a representation of Anansi, but it could also refer to the different forms he has taken in these different countries and these different cultures, and the names that have been given to those different forms. So some of them are, he's known as Brunansi in the Virgin Islands, Anansi or Anansi in Jamaica, Grenada, Costa Rica, Colombia and Nicaragua. He's known in the traditional Anansi form in Trinidad and Tobago. He's also known as Anansi Drew in the Bahamas, Aunt Nancy in South Carolina, Compa Nancy in Aruba, and as well as Curacao and Bonaire, Kwaku Anansi in Akanland, Ba Anansi in Suriname, Gere Zarian, Zarenian or Timaliche in Haiti, Bra Anansi, Nancy or Bra Spida in Jamaica and Sierra Leone, and Ba Yente in South Carolina. So you can see that although the names are similar, it has different connotations and probably refers to the different forms as we discussed. Now when we look at the powers and abilities of this trickster god, Anansi is often depicted in folklore as a participant in rituals performed by various other deities who often bestow upon him with supernatural powers to actually get their work done. Some traditions even portray him as the son of Earth's mother. In other cultures, he is referred to as a lesser deity, which is more likely fitting in with his role within the pantheon. Although he is often regarded as a prophet in Akan spirituality, his followers do not recognize him as such. Instead, they honor him as a healer, a symbol of wisdom, and a creator of the first human body. Instead of being a symbol of resistance, he was often regarded as a symbol of survival. This is because he used his cunning and trickery to turn the tables on his oppressors. Stories of Anansi helped enslaved Africans establish a sense of continuity with their lives, which allowed them to assert their identity within the confines of captivity. And once we got rid of all this nonsense known as slavery, Anansi was one of the gods that gained prominence because it taught them the art of survival and how, despite being oppressed for such a long time, they managed to make it. Stories of Anansi were exclusively part of an oral tradition, and he was regarded as having the most wisdom and skill in speech, which obviously ties in with being a trickster god, because you have to have the gift of the gab and a certain level of intelligence to really pull things off. This tradition eventually encompassed various kinds of fables and tales and were introduced to the rest of the world through slaves who were brought to the New World by the Atlantic slave trade. As Jamaica had the largest concentration of the enslaved Ashanti in Americas, they tend to have much better documented stories and proverbs. Anansi was even referred to as Kwaku Anansi in Jamaica during the times of slavery. This is because the Akan word for Anansi is Kwaku. Anansi's role in the lives of Africans beyond slavery. He has evolved into a character who is regarded as a classical hero and a true representation of how resilience and the sheer will to survive can really help you and take you places. Like I mentioned earlier, we at Mythlok are extremely interested in African mythology and bringing it out to the world to show the people that the African culture, which is heavily diluted now due to the influence of terrorism, Islam, Christianity, forced conversions, etc., the true core and essence of the continent and of the people of this beautiful place has still so much to offer the rest of the human race in terms of understanding, knowledge, and even basic entertainment. So we at Mythlok will be exploring a lot more of African mythology, and we invite you to stay with us on the journey. Thank you very much for tuning into our episode. This is your host Nitin Nair signing off, and just reminding you one more time that Mythlok is the home of mythology.